Mayor Tory, back to the issue of police headquarters and security there. The new security protocol was put into place without public consultation. We didn't even know about it. We showed up one day. There were new, security gates to go through, metal detectors. Your office is fairly accessible to the public, and so is City Hall. Do you feel that there should be extra security measures in place there if they're in place at a public forum like police headquarters for police support?
Without going too far as yet, I will only say that, I have received a report on security generally in public buildings in Toronto, and that report identifies some concerns that exist in 2017, given the realities that we face in cities across the globe, including Toronto. We are not immune, from the kinds of things that we've seen in other cities. And so what you want to try to do is make sure that you maintain the ultimate in accessibility, especially at the City Hall and for that matter at police headquarters, but that at the same time you don't render the people who work in those buildings, who visit those buildings, vulnerable because of the fact you've not taken reasonable steps to protect them. I made the point yesterday. At police headquarters, you have in that building hundreds of men and women who are given the responsibility of keeping us safe. We also have a responsibility to make sure they are kept safe. And the same is true of City Hall. And so what you want to do is try and figure out a way in which you don't diminish the accessibility of the building. And I would make this point again with respect to police headquarters. The objective of the reasonable security measures they put in place there is not to deny anybody access to the building. It is simply to say, when you go in, similar to what you face going in many other places, including sports events and rock concerts, you will be asked to go through a reasonable measure of security to promote the safety for you and for all the other people that are in the building with you. And so I just think, to me, this is something that I think the vast majority of people would strongly support, these very reasonable measures that have been put in place, and that nobody is being denied access to the building other than to have to go through a reasonable security check you do many other places.
So you're saying we could see similar measures at City Hall?
I'm saying that these are things that are in need of constant review, and I think you've seen in the wake of some of these reports that we've received, there have been steps taken in the city, and we don't highlight them because you don't want to highlight, frankly, things you're doing that give any more information than necessary to the people who might be looking to perpetrate these acts, these horrific acts like we've seen recently in Edmonton. But I am saying too, I think people have noticed some of the steps we've taken with some of the open spaces that we have, and we've done that on the advice of police and security agencies and others, to say that you have a responsibility. Think of the criticism that you would be leveling at me and other people if we hadn't taken reasonable steps and something happened in the police headquarters building. You'd be harshly criticizing me for that, and I would say your criticism would be justified. And so we're looking right now, as we do on a constant basis in cooperation with the police and others, at things we have to do to make sure people, all people who work for the city government, police officers, and every citizen are as safe as they can possibly be in the city, and I make no apology for that. That's my job.
Does that involve security checks going into council chamber? Because right now you can walk in the street.
It is something that has been identified for years as a place of considerable vulnerability in the city. And I will tell you that there are people who sort of say, well, that's the way it should be. It's the people's place. And I understand that thinking. But I think we have to constantly re-examine these things because it's 2017 and because we've seen things happen in other places in the world, to make sure that I'm able to stand here and say that we're doing everything that is reasonable within the context of accessibility to make sure people are safe. And that includes city councillors. I mean, there's many city staff and there's members of the public who sit in that council chamber. So it's not just about politicians. People will say, well, politicians, why should we worry so much about that? It's not about that. It's about everybody's safety, including elected representatives. So I can just say that we're looking at these things as well we should, in light of things that are happening all around the world. And I think the citizens absolutely understand that, as long as we focus on making sure to continue to be an accessible place within reasonable constraints.